Welcome back to Jesse's Barbershop, everybody. My name is Jesse, and today I am very exhausted because I just spent the last hour and a half editing this video completely done. I realized I hated every second of it because I had done a tutorial on how to style it and how to tie it up and how to wrap it, but realistically, when it comes down to it, it's not that difficult of a hairstyle to achieve. So in terms of how to go about doing it, it really is quite simple. You take your thumbs just above your ears, part your hair up to your occipital bone, which is that little bone that sticks out of the back of your head, tie that up into a bun, leave everything else down. You got yourself the Eren Yeager. So what I'd like to do for this video is, in classic Jesse's Barbershop style, we're gonna be breaking down Eren Yeager's hairstyle from Attack on Titan Season 4 as if he was a real person. First of all, we're gonna be going over his hair type and his hair texture. Now, obviously he is an anime character, so he doesn't have that, but it might be fun because if you watch anime, you'll know that hairstyles in the shows are pretty typically more artistic representations of hairstyles that suit the character. So the artist will often take exaggerated creative liberties. You know exactly what I'm talking about. What I think is very cool and also a big reason as to why it's such a popular hairstyle, because it is realistically very, very achievable. Everybody's been growing out their hair for the past year, and it's a super popular show. Everybody's been watching it. So in part one, we're gonna be going over what hair type you need and how you'd go about styling it based on the various hair type options that are available. And in part two, we're gonna be talking about styling. So what you need to do, and also kind of go over styling my hair, probably do a bit of a voiceover, something like that, just so I can walk you guys through the process as to how I would go about styling my hair this way. And part three is going to be what you would need to do and what to tell your barber if you were looking to get this haircut for yourself. So I hope you guys enjoy. I hope this is interesting enough to have kept your attention up until this point. Thanks for sticking around. We're not even gonna do an intro. Let's just get into it. So part one is going to be hair type. Now this is going to be a very interesting one, and to help me explain, I'm going to be bringing in my friend Manny the Mannequin, who I have given transformation scars and also angrier eyebrows because fighting for freedom is stressful. And also he came with a beard, and I might want to do something with it later, so just kind of ignore that for now. But in terms of the differences in hair type and how that's going to affect this style itself, it's going to be huge, because let's say somebody with my hair density tried doing this hairstyle. They would probably be able to pull it up into a bun, wrap it around into a little bun, and be able to expand that bun and pull pieces and make it nice and disheveled to kind of create that full, messy bun look. Now, let's say, for example, somebody like this guy had the exact same length as me, but has a far lesser density because it's a mannequin. That bun will turn out something a little bit more like this, which is finer and thinner. And I mean, all women know this, or if you're a guy with longer hair, that's kind of a surefire way to identify your hair density, is how wide the diameter is of your ponytail. So when it comes to a finer head of hair, of course you can always get something that's close. But I think one of the defining characteristics behind this look is that kind of messier, disheveled bun that he has. So if you're dealing with a lower density of hair, you might end up with something like this even after kind of pulling everything back. And maybe you take a little bit more from beneath there, it's still gonna end up a little bit finer than you'd want. That's just something to kind of think about, is understanding your hair type. And of course, I mean, if you haven't seen my video on how to identify your hair type, I'll be linking that up here or here as well. So when it comes down to it, here's the thing. Most people can grow out their hair and put it in a man bun. And because this is a man bun look, you can probably get away with it or get something close regardless of the hair type that you have. But if you're looking for a realistic representation of what's being portrayed in the anime, in theme with slightly exaggerated anime character hairstyles, you'd probably need a thicker head of hair or higher density in order to achieve the exact look that Eren has in the show. Now let's go on to part two, which I said I think was styling, where we're gonna bring back old Manny here. Because again, this looks pretty good. And I think something that we're gonna touch on in part three is actually the cut aspect, which, as you can probably see down here, I mean, this mannequin's hair was here when I got it, but we did a specific cut to kind of give it this look. But for now, what we're gonna focus on is the styling of the bun. That's kind of where you're gonna do most of the work. So with a finer texture like this, like I said, it's gonna be harder to kind of pull out that bun and give it as much volume and messiness as it needs to kind of fully represent what it's like in the show. But regardless, you can still kind of mess around with it and do the best you can. So what I'm doing with this is just kind of pulling out the bun here and there, just kind of keep it as loose as possible. Just kind of create, actually that's not too bad, just kind of create as loose of a look as you possibly can, just to kind of give it as much texture as possible. And that's pretty simple. And I mean, realistically, it's probably going to end up coming out, which might even add to the look a little bit, but it's going to depend on your hair type. Because as you're about to see, if you're somebody like me who has thicker hair, you can do stuff like this.
Whoa, surprise, voiceover Jesse here. And I'm going to be providing a little bit of commentary as I go through the styling process. Like I said, there's not much to it. It is really just putting it into a bun. But what I would like you to pay attention to is the difference in density between my bun and Mr. Manny the Mannequin's. As I said, the more hair you have, the thicker you'll be able to make your ponytail or bun. And in my case, I have very thick hair. So as you'll be able to see, my bun is a lot larger. And you'll see in a second here what it will allow me to do in terms of creating this kind of messier, disheveled bun. All I'm doing is I'm taking pieces of this bun and pulling them out to kind of give it that piecier look. And because I have so much, I can create like a lot of pieces. Whereas if I had pulled this much hair out of Manny's bun, it would have been basically his entire bun and it would have just turned into a ponytail. So depending on your hair type, you're going to be able to do more or less of this, but the idea is to create as piecey of a look as possible. And I opted for pulling my bun a little bit lower, which I kind of regretted afterwards, but regardless, you just keep it a little higher, keep it a little lower. And then I'm taking a couple pieces from my hairline that are way too long for this look, but just to kind of give the idea of what you would be able to do if you were to go for this style yourself.
So as you can see, I've got that same bun wrapped up the exact same amount of times with the hairband, but instead of it being nice and tiny, there's a lot of density in there. So it allows me the freedom to be able to spread the pieces, move them, kind of wrap them around and give them a little bit more volume and build that bigger bun. Your hair may be anywhere on the spectrum from super fine to super thick. You just have to go about experimenting with this to see what you can come up with. But like I said, the good news is, I mean, it's just a man bun. So regardless, you're probably going to be able to make it work. And then of course, I think the last thing is just the pieciness towards the face. Again, with this finer density of hair, I think it's almost nicer to kind of take these larger chunks out, but in the show, much finer. Actually, that looks pretty cool too. I think I might have just changed my mind. But in terms of styling, like I said, pretty straightforward. Tons of tutorials out there on how to do a man bun. Now, how do you get to a place where you absolutely nail it and get it to the exact same way that it was in the show? Well, that all comes down to the cut. And that's where we're going to get into part 3, which is what you should do to get this haircut and what to tell your barber if you're sitting down in the chair looking to get this hairstyle for yourself. So part 3 is the haircut. Now, I had mentioned in I think 1 or 2 of my previous videos that I was going for the Eren Yeager haircut, but my hair inspiration has changed from Eren Yeager to Jesus. So in respect to that, I could not cut my hair because that would delay that process. However, lucky enough for me, Manny here volunteered to get his hair cut. So what I had done is I had done what I would have done on my hair or a client's hair who's looking to get this haircut, but on Mr. Mannequin here, which is basically taking this nape length or anything below the occipital bone and cutting it to the length that I had seen in the show, because I feel like a lot of the fan art and the tutorials out there right now are a lot longer because people aren't really willing to commit to this, but luckily Manny doesn't care. Because yeah, in the show, this nape length is actually quite short and I feel like it's almost not a lot of volume. It's kind of more taken down, something like that. But basically what I had done is I had given this mannequin what is known as a razor cut, which if you are looking to do this for yourself at home, stay super far away from razors because they can do a lot of damage to your hair if you don't use them correctly. But if you go to a barber or a hairstylist who knows what they're doing, they should have the capacity to do so. And the reason I used a razor is because it gives a very specific look. Now, as you can probably see here, like even just kind of in the light, you can see all these different little pieces and layers that are cut through there, right? So that's all done intentionally through razor cutting. So rather than shears cutting a hair completely blunt, a razor actually kind of tapers the ends, which gives it that kind of more shattered look, which I think artistically they went for in the show itself. And this is kind of the realistic IRL version of that, at least in my opinion. So first of all, ask yourself, are you somebody who's looking to get this hairstyle for yourself? Because if you are and you're willing to commit to this shorter nape length to really lock in that look, first thing to do is check out that first link in the description where you can have access to our free Discord chat where I'm in every single day, where we can get discussion going. And like I said, if you're somebody who's going to do this, I want to follow along with you for the process and hopefully be able to help you out a little bit. So feel free to check out that link in the description. Now, if you're anybody else who doesn't want to do that and you're looking to get this haircut, let's talk about it. First of all, pretty straightforward. I would break the haircut into two different sections, which is the top that goes into the bun and of course the nape, which sits outside. Now, if you were in the chair looking to get this haircut, first of all, you have to make sure that you have enough length at the front and the top. I don't really deal in inches, I just kind of deal in how long stuff is, but my hair just at the front is finally at a point where it just like barely gets into a bun. So if you can get your hair this long, you're probably good to go. I'm just gonna say 9 inches, that's just a guess. And if you're in a chair, I would highly suggest actually bringing in photos of this haircut for your barber. Now, in my career, I've had many people bring in anime characters' hairstyles as inspiration, which usually makes absolutely no sense because of course the creative liberties, but in this case, it's pretty straightforward and it's pretty realistic to be able to achieve. And in terms of the cutting the nape itself, keep this in mind. If you have very fine hair, a razor cut probably isn't necessary. The idea behind the razor cut is it takes out that weight, gives it that texture and dimension, which if you have finer hair, you don't really have room to be able to get rid of that extra weight, it's not gonna make much sense. And typically you wanna keep as much weight in there as possible if you have a finer density. And scissors would work fine. It's just if you have a thicker head of hair or coarse mannequin hair, a razor cut might be a good option to take out that extra weight and give it that extra featheriness that I think kind of makes the look. It is a pretty straightforward haircut. I wouldn't recommend doing it on your own, but it's very possible. And like I said in the beginning, even if you don't go for this exact haircut, if you just kind of grow everything out, you could get something pretty similar like I did, but that's kind of it. And more than anything, I just wanted to get this video out because I feel like there's too many videos about this hairstyle from people who haven't watched the show and don't know much about hair and are just kind of, you know, showing you how to put your hair up into a bun, which, I mean, hopefully you'll be able to figure out how to do. And if not, you watch the videos and now you know. So I hope that's given you a little bit more insight into the Eren Yeager hairstyle itself, more specifically. And I've always wanted to look into anime characters' hairstyles and see how realistic or feasible they would be in real life. So if that's something that you guys are interested in, leave that down in the comments below on a character that you'd like to see or something like that, or just join that Discord server that I talked about, because that's where I am every single day answering all your guys' questions, and it's going pretty well so far. Product recommendations, all that kind of stuff. So go ahead and check that out. But I hope this has been helpful. If not, somewhat interesting. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. And if you've been subscribed, ring that little bell for notifications. I have a little metric that says, I mean, we're about 10% notifications on, which is good. I think it's like the YouTube average, but let's just see what happens if we bump that up. So if you guys want to help me out, hit that bell so you don't miss when I post another video. So thanks guys for watching. You guys are all so awesome. And I hopefully will see you in the next video. Da, 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 da.